Hey everyone, so I was just putting on my makeup to film a video and I thought I might as well tell you about the foundation that I'm going to be wearing today. So this is the Max Factor Face Finity Foundation. You guys know that I bought this at the same time as I bought the Max Factor Miracle Match Foundation, which I reviewed last time. And if you stick around to the end, I'll tell you what I think about it versus the Miracle Match Foundation in case you're wondering which one of them you should buy. So I've already put some primer on. I've put on the Maybelline Baby Skin Primer. This is the primer that I use every single time I do makeup, really. So the good news is that it's a really good match for me. You can see that that's a really good colour there. And I'm just going to start on one half of my face so that you can see the difference. And I think last time I did this, I applied it with my hands, so I'm going to do that again, just to make it a fair test. Now normally I apply this with a damp sponge, but I find that using my fingers is actually working really well for this. I'm getting a really good finish from it. It's definitely not difficult to work with at all. You saw I just kind of slapped it on and it's still blended really nicely into the skin. It's left a really natural finish, just like the Miracle Match foundation did. I'm always really impressed with how the Max Factor foundations finish on my skin. So I've just put one really light layer on this part of my skin here, and hopefully you can kind of see the difference already. So I've got quite a lot of hyperpigmentation and blotchiness and spots and things, and the coverage on this is really impressive. So this is just one layer and it's settled in really well, but it's also really kind of evened everything out, which I really look for in a foundation. The finish is quite nice as well. It's definitely on the matte side of things, but it's not so matte that it's really drying out my skin. I have quite dry skin and this still looks really nice on me. So I'm just going to put it on the rest of my face now, and I'm going to build it up a little bit more just in areas where I need it as well. I don't normally put my eye makeup on before my foundation, but today I felt really compelled to wear like a red glittery eyeshadow, because when you're really tired and you've got bloodshot eyes, red glittery eyeshadow is a brilliant idea. Now for my forehead, I'm just going to use a sponge to kind of blend everything in, because that's where I've got some really dry skin and I don't want it to kind of cake up or anything. I really like how this goes on with a sponge as well. It looks so natural when you do it this way. So if you've got really dry skin, or if you just want a little bit less coverage, then maybe use a sponge. So this is what one layer of foundation looks like over my whole face. I'm really happy with the coverage. It's definitely evened out my skin redness really nicely. I think if this was just kind of an everyday look, I would just put some concealer on the spots and under my eyes, and I would probably be quite happy to leave it like this. Now today, like I said, I'm actually going to be filming another video, so I think I'm going to build it up to more of a flawless coverage. I'm just going to put some on the quite red areas of my face, and then I'm just going to get my sponge. This looks like the Beauty Blender, but it isn't. This is a £4 dupe that I found on eBay. And then I'm just going to kind of use the sponge to press it in to the bits that need a bit more coverage on. Another thing I like about this foundation is that it builds up really well. You could definitely get a more full coverage with this if you wanted to, or you can just wear it quite sheer like I was saying for everyday as well. It's really quite versatile. And then I'm just going to put some over my spots on my jawline as well. I will say, if you've got quite dry skin and you build this up too much, it probably will start to get a little bit on the cakey side. I think if you've got really dry skin, then you're probably going to be better off with the Miracle Match foundation. That's definitely much better for dry skin. It's got a slightly dewier finish and it's just a less matte texture, so it's not going to kind of cake to all the flaky areas. Now for me, I've got quite combination skin. Today, however, it's definitely a little bit more on the drier side. I think because it's getting quite cold in the UK now, my skin is definitely just getting a little bit drier. But this is still going on quite nicely with the sponge. So this is what it looks like with the foundation kind of built up in certain areas. I think most of my face is kind of 2 layers by now, because I just have a bit more blotchiness and redness than the average person that needs to be covered up. So on me, this is kind of coming off as a sort of medium, maybe nearly full coverage, but not quite. I would say if you've got less blotchiness than I do, then you could probably build this up to be full coverage quite easily. One thing I will say about this is that it claims to be a 3-in-1, so it says it's a primer, concealer and foundation all in one. For me personally, I would only use this for a foundation. I would never put foundation on without primer because my skin is just too dry to do that, but maybe if you've got normal to oily skin, you might be able to. Now, as for a concealer, I could definitely build it up quite nicely over redness, but you can see that I've got a lot of spots on my chin. It definitely hasn't fully covered them up. I am gonna have to go in with concealer on top of that. So I wouldn't say that you can use this as a concealer as well. Personally, I will always use a separate concealer on top of my foundation, but that's fine by me. That's what I would expect to do anyway. But if you were buying this because you wanted it to be a kind of all-in-one product, that's just something to keep in mind. I really like how natural this looks on my skin. This still looks like my skin. It doesn't look like I'm wearing a massive amount of makeup. It doesn't feel like I'm wearing makeup either, which I really like. I've got quite sensitive skin and it doesn't feel like it's suffocating it at all. Even on the areas where I've really built it up, it still feels quite fresh on my skin, but I'm going to check in with you a bit later on after a few hours and I can tell you how it feels then as well. So I'm just going to put the rest of my makeup on now and I'll get back to you shortly. So I've just finished putting on the rest of my makeup now. I've kind of gone for this really autumn winter inspired red and dusky pink look today, and it's a little bit different to what I'd normally wear, but I really like trying out new kind of looks these days. So let me know what you think of this in the comments below. If you like it, I might post a tutorial or something. It's really easy to do. So the time is about 10 to 3 now. It actually took me a really long time to set up all the lights and stuff this morning because it's so dark outside today. But I'm going to try and film my full favourites video before the light completely goes for the day. Anyway, I'll see you guys in a bit. Bye! Hi everyone, it's 5 o'clock now. So I've been wearing this foundation for about 2 hours now. I am under studio lights as well, which does accelerate how much the foundation's going to wear and things like that. I could keep it on longer, but I did want to kind of get this last bit of the video in before all the light goes, which is obviously quite early at this time of year. I'm really impressed actually with how this foundation wears, not just today, but every single time that I've worn this. So I've worn this a lot over the last couple of weeks. Sometimes I've worn this all day and I've always been really happy with how my skin looks at the end of the day. So there's not a huge amount of caking going on. I think some of the bits of my skin where it was built up quite a lot have started to go drier, like the spots on my jawline here. There's maybe some small amount of caking, but to be honest, that kind of happens with whatever makeup I wear, just because I have to build up quite a lot of concealer and stuff on this area. I'm just looking at my forehead now because that's the driest part of my skin. And yeah, I'm still really impressed with how it's worn there as well. There's no like massive amount of flakiness or anything like that at all. Considering that I've got quite dry skin, I'm actually really happy with how this foundation has worn because it's quite a matte formula, and normally matte foundations really dry out and start to go really patchy and really break down, especially on my nose and around my chin and stuff, but this one's held up really well and I found that it's done that every single time that I've worn it. The colour's still really good as well. It's still pale, it hasn't oxidized. I do have a lot of foundations that tend to get quite darker during the day. This one hasn't done that. It's still the same colour as it was a couple of hours ago. So I've got both the Facefinity and the Miracle Match, and I'm going to kind of go over the differences of them, just in case you're kind of in the position that I was in quite recently and you're wondering which one of these foundations to get and which one you think would suit you more. So personally, I definitely prefer the Facefinity foundation. I just have a lot more blotchiness on my skin, I have spots, I need that bit of extra coverage that this has. So which one is right for you will depend on your skin type. I would say if you've got really dry skin, go for Miracle Match. If you're really pale and you want something that does not oxidize, go for Facefinity. If you need that extra coverage, go for Facefinity. If you want something that's quite sheer, maybe you're at school or you want to wear something to the office, go for the Miracle Match. Both of them have a really natural finish. Both of them won't look like you're wearing makeup. So I hope that that's kind of given you an idea of which one is more suitable for you, but if you do have any more questions, then just leave them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, do give it a thumbs up, and again, let me know if you have any questions about either of the foundations that I've tried, and if you've got any suggestions for what you'd like to see me review next. I think I'm going to start going through a few of the foundations that I already own first, because I have quite a few. I think there are another 5 or so that I can review for this series, so definitely subscribe if you want to see more reviews from me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!